Hey, this is Jon Leon Guerrero. Our guest today is Hafeez Baoku. He's a producer of video shorts and, along with his co-host Chris, is the producer of the Roommates podcast. Now, if you're not already listening to the Roommates podcast, and if that seems like a cavalier title, well, they do provide the amount of levity to keep things entertaining. But these guys are solid thinkers who get great guests or just explore topics among themselves that reach for a thorough level of understanding. And they go right in on the meaningful topics: relationships, cultural dynamics, mental health, faith. They go after things that matter with thoughtfulness, candor, and grace. Pete and Hafeez talk about these things and more. So get ready for our special guest today, Hafeez Baoku.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Marotta.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is Jon Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Yo, what's good, everybody? This is Hafeez from the Roommates podcast, and you are listening to the one, the only, America's favorite, the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with Jon Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
You know how we do it over here. That's awesome. We've got Hafeez on the show today. He's, him and his partner Chris have a monster of a show. Even if they may not know it, I'm going to tell you right now, it's such a great idea. First off, Hafeez is a graduate of Troy U, and Troy is, they're friends of the show. We've done a bunch of stuff with Troy people, so shout out to the, what are they, the Spartans? Is that what they are?
Wow, man, get it right. We the Trojans.
Trojans. Yeah, we were just there.
Be the Trojans.
The Trojans. Yeah, we were just there in Montgomery the other day recording at the Rosa Parks Museum, and we love the folks over at Troy, so that's a fun little small world link. Hey, Hafeez has authored a book called Sex, God, and the Single Life. He's a man of faith, and you guys have gotten so much well-earned exposure for your show. You guys, definitely, everybody, go check out their Patreon page. Go support these guys because they're really doing something special. And I know you guys have a long way to go. I was listening to my prep. Like, you're a guy that isn't satisfied with the here and the now. You want to keep going forward in a positive way. But you guys are changing the narrative of young men. That's a big goal. So,
of course, man. Of course.
A huge goal to change that narrative. I can't wait to get in with this. And I'll just start you off with this. You guys are well over 100 shows. So you're established, you're doing it. Tell me who you've become since you started this venture.
Man, honestly, this is going to sound super arrogant. I've just been the same guy. I've had this vision. I've had this passion for quite a long time. To be able to create this platform, to help, to serve, to give. I've been doing it on a very micro level since I was 19 years old. And so this has been my very identity for so long. And I would be doing it even if the show wasn't existing. But I think the show has definitely, it's been a fun experience, but I don't equate a lot of my identity to what the show has given me or what the show has become, because I've been this way for quite a while.
Let me ask you the question in a slightly different way then.
Okay.
Considering the guests you guys have had on, and you've had on some enormous, you've had Jordan Peterson on, you've had Jordan Harbinger on your show, you've had Ben Shapiro on your show. I
want Jordan Peterson, man. I've been praying for Jordan Peterson for months.
Me too. Hey, I've been chasing him, and I've got a pretty good in. If I get him, I definitely will hand him over to you guys too, because he's so damn busy and so sick of talking, you know. Yeah, Chris Broussard. You've had all kinds of really smash hit names, plus your bros and stuff. So interacting with these guys in this environment, surely that has caused an evolution or a modification in who you are. How has the show helped you evolve from the interactions that you've had?
No, I think the biggest things for me that has been the most encouraging is that when you meet people whose giftedness matches their character. I think for a lot of people that they spend their whole entire lives, you know, being a figurehead, being a on-air personality, being an author, being whatever it is, and you meet them in person, and their personality is trash, and the most impressive thing about themselves is what they do for an hour a week. So when you meet people like Lewis Howes or Stefan Labossiere, or you meet people like Devon Franklin and all types of amazing, great people like Chris Broussard, Jordan Harbinger, all these amazing individuals. Shout out Ben Shapiro. Ben Shapiro, regardless of what you see him on the videos, man, Ben Shapiro is a saint. So when you meet these people and you meet them in person, and they're so kind and they're so respectful and they're so supportive and they're wonderful human beings, that encourages you for humanity moving forward, especially for healthy men moving forward. So, those guys are my heroes. They encourage me to be a better person. And yeah, man, it's exciting to meet people like that, and it makes me want to strive for greatness.
Man, I love it. And this is what I love about what you guys did. I found you guys by accident. I was just noodling around doing my job as a show producer. And I found this so we had a charge. So I'm an Army guy, and Sebastian Younger, who's a very notable author and has worked in the military space a lot, he gave all of us the charge on my show. He said, your guys' job now is to not deploy anymore, is to stay home and get us to rally in the middle somewhere. Get us to focus on things and work on problems proactively instead of divisively. And I see you guys as a voice for that. And it's easy to assign people an agenda and everything else, but I just love that you guys are tackling big, hard things in a way that is healthy.
No, that's real. I think the biggest thing for me is that I think people will always tell you that they're open-minded. I think that word is silly, because I respect people who say it. I'm honest about my convictions. I'm honest about my worldview. I'm honest about my values and my principles. So I'll never act like I'm a person that's just blank canvas, who's just open to anyone sharing me their BS. But at the same time, I have a closed heart. As we talk about on the show, I have a closed heart and a very open mind, in which I definitely am willing to learn and to grow from a myriad of different people. And I love people from a myriad of different backgrounds. So when we bring people on the show, I have no agenda. I'm not trying to shame. I'm not trying to trap. I'm not trying to embarrass. I'm genuinely trying to sit down, learn, and have a conversation, and to grow and to help encourage humanity. So I think that's a big thing for me, is I genuinely like these people. Like, I genuinely like Ben Shapiro. Like, I genuinely like the guy. I genuinely like people that bring on my show. And people always want to do like, okay, I love Ben, or I love Lewis, or I love Chris, but I disagree with them. The reality of life is I disagree with everybody. Yes. I disagree with my own mother. So I don't have to tell you what I disagree with. We all know that. We can spend all day long arguing back and forth, picking at each other's ideologies about what we disagree with. But at the end of the day, we have to somehow coexist in this freaking melting pot of a weird, crazy social experiment that is American society. And so for me, I just want to create a better and healthier place for everybody to live and thrive.
You're speaking my language, and I'm so glad that we're doing this, because really we see these problems in the same way. I spent a lot of time in combat zones, and you talk about crossing culture, crossing religion, crossing language, crossing levels of stability. That shit involves miscomfort. You are not allowed to be comfortable if you're going to be good at that kind of work. And the same thing is here. Like, to have an open mind, it's expensive. Like, it costs you pain. You have to work at it. You have to stick your neck out. And don't tell me what I should do if there's someone hungry within a mile from your house. Let's go do that. Let's go feed that person. Let's stick our necks out. Let's put not just some skin in the game, but put some action in the game. And it's too easy to run your mouth without, saying, hang on a second, I want to understand. That's what you're talking about. Like, how do I understand Ben Shapiro and Chris Broussard? These are different people. Ideologically, sure, yeah, maybe. But in general, they come from different places. They see the world in a different way, because that's how two people are. I dig that you're willing to get into that and just, like, we had a show the other day. I won't say who the guest was, but, he has a very specific political lean. And I'm consciously going, okay, this is uncomfortable, because I'm trying to think about the audience the whole time, and when is this going to be too much, and does my audience lean one way or the other? And the whole time I'm thinking, I'm measuring that, not to shut him up, but I want to give him all the room in the world to say what he's got to say, challenge him accordingly, but have a healthy conversation that isn't fun, but is enlightening and useful.
No, that's awesome. I definitely agree with that. I think that's the that's a point, because my biggest thing is like, I'm obsessed with good ideas, right? I'm obsessed with the truth. I believe it was Aristotle when he talked about the virtues. One of the great virtues is the truth, right? And so as a person consumed with the truth, like, you have to be as radically honest to know that you don't own the truth in every aspect of your life, right? So you want to definitely have strong convictions. Like I said, if something I believe is untrue, I want to experience what's truth. So I think, like you said, talking to these different people and challenging yourself is very important, and giving people the space to breathe into space to talk. Because like you said, like, you having a show, you have a platform, you have an audience, but sometimes ideas need to be crucified.
Yeah.
And the best way to let them be crucified by letting people crucify them themselves. So for me, when you do a conversation right, I don't got to attack you and debate you. But when you share a bad idea, I know that people are intelligible enough to understand that this idea is a stupid idea. So like you said, push back when pushback is needed. But if you're constantly focused on chasing the truth, like, the people will be able to sense it, they'll be able to feel it, and they'll be able to understand it. And so, yeah, I definitely agree with you. You got to give people the space to be able to share. But the beauty of life is that the truth always wins out. And as long as you focus on pursuing that, I think you will all be in a good place.
You talk a lot about men and your perspective on things. And in a lot of ways, a lot of the things that represent you are under attack in society, like the whole, and I'm speaking, as a host. Obviously, I'm a man as well, but that toxic masculinity talk, where it's like, that puts a lot of us in an unfair position, like mansplaining. So like, now I can't have an opinion and voice it because then I'm mansplaining. And also, you're a man of faith and you're open about it. These are things that are not, and Christian faith, that's a specific thing. Talk a little bit about how you see that part of the world.
In regards to
just, is going through and I hate to say PC because that's such a cop out, but just the area where the idea of masculinity, of having Christian based faith, these are ideas that are divisive for some people.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. That's a great question. I think what ends up happening is winners win and truth wins. Okay. I think a lot of new ideas, in my opinion, there's not much new underneath the sun. And a lot of new ideas are bad ideas that are previously tried and proven untrue. So in all honesty, as much as they want to attack toxic masculinity, women gravitate towards masculine men. Society needs masculine men. Why do you think all these girls love beards nowadays? Like, there's a reason why. There's a natural gravitation to masculinity. And so I think while you have some people on the radical left who do talk about masculinity and such a negative connotation, those are a select few people. And when you go around the world and you go to most societies, you see that healthy masculinity thrives. And where healthy masculinity thrives, society flourishes. And in all due respect to the amazing, beautiful women who are fans of your show, like, most women will tell you this. Like, if you have 100 great women, like, it's not a guarantee that you'll have 100 great men. But I guarantee if you have 100 great men in society, you definitely will have 1,000 great women. So I think that what the focus on creating healthier men and encouraging and lifting men is something that society is yearning for. The bashing of men and all the things that they do, like, because have men done wrong? And let's complete transparency. Have men done wrong? Yes. You know why? Because men are humans. It's very fascinating because you look at all through any ancient civilization, it's not that men do wrong, it's whoever has the power does wrong. Whether it's the Mesopotamians, the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Assyrians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, whatever that society is, whatever that culture is, like, whoever is in the power seat eventually does wrong, because unfortunately absolute power will corrupt absolutely. So I think that somehow society is going to see very soon that if you just think that men are the problem and women are the solution, the moment you give women the power, they're just human beings and they get corrupted as well. So the idea of toxic masculinity is really like this unhealthy, like, toxic masculinity is a silly word. Is there men who do bad? Duh.
Yeah.
Is there women who do bad? Of course. Are there men who do good? Yes. Are there women who do good? Yes. So I think that moving forward in society, while it's trendy right now, society yearns for healthy masculinity. Families yearn for it. Children yearn for it. Women yearn for it. Men look up to it. And as much as they want to bash and attack it, man, truth will always win. And then in regards to Christianity, I think that, we do live in a very postmodern society where religion is seen very antiquated and is seen as very oppressive. But at the end of the day, my general consensus is you need a worldview. Everybody has a worldview, whether you get it from a Bible, whether you get it from a book, whether you get it from a TV show, we all have worldviews created. And I think what's beginning to happen is that as society begins to progress, we see that people don't have values anymore. Because unlike what most people think, it's not easy to come out with a worldview or a philosophy out of thin air. You adopt it from somewhere. So I think what's going to eventually happen is you're going to see a quote unquote resurgence back to traditional values in a lot of different areas because people need the stability, they need the structure. That's why Jordan Peterson is so popping. That's why 12 Rules for Life was so powerful, because we as men, we as a society need those rules and structures. Okay, you can argue whether Christianity is valid or not. It doesn't have to be Christianity. But I definitely think that the positive things about religion and order is something that's fundamental and pivotal for society to progress.
Man, they said a lot there. Holy shit, man. That's powerful stuff. Let's first off, everybody should check you guys' Patreon page out. It's called The Roommates Podcast. You can see it on iTunes. I watch it on YouTube. Not all of it's there, though. So if you go to iTunes, definitely on Patreon, Stitcher, all those places, they're everywhere. And just tons of exposure in a positive way because you guys are doing really positive things. You talked about Jordan Peterson, and he is also this divisive guy. But when you really dig into the meat of what he does, first off, a fantastic philosopher, a legitimate PhD, and everybody gets hung up on his gender stuff. But once you hear him talk about it, it's a reasoned position. So, of course, it's easy to lose our shit because we hear something about him. But the man is saying, square your shoulders, take on life, hold yourself accountable, use faith. If you're a person of faith, use faith and, hold yourself accountable in a lot of different ways, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And accountability is something that, gosh, man, we all need accountability, don't you think?
No, I definitely think that's a number one thing that I look for in maturity in the person. When I ask somebody, like, for example, if their life is not the way it's supposed to be, I say, okay, what's wrong? If they blame mom, the system, the man, my third grade teacher, when they start pointing the finger at everybody but themselves, that's a problem. Does mom do things wrong to us? Yes. Does society at times screw us over and give us the low ball in life? Yes. But at the end of the day, there is a human responsibility that we all have to take into account. And so I definitely agree with you that it's so important that we have accountability and that we can look in the mirror and say, we need to improve. We need to add order to our chaos. We need to be the change, like that Michael Jackson song, being the man, like the world, to make the world a better place. Mm-hmm. That look at to make that change. So, man, I think the problem today is that there's so much finger pointing. Everyone wants to point the finger at somebody else. Everybody wants to call somebody else's ish out. And one of my favorite, I say this all the time, but a really powerful verse in the Bible was when Jesus talked about the idea of a plank and a speck. And there was a verse where Jesus told the people, he says, don't look at the speck in your brother's eye and call it out. First, take the plank out of your own eye, then you can clearly see the speck in your brother's eye. And the reason why that's so powerful is that he never rebuked the idea of, if there's something, like, obviously the eye is symbolic to like something going on wrong with someone's life. He never rebuked the idea of looking at someone's life and seeing that, oh, you need to improve on it. But he first said, look at your chaos, look at your life, get your life in order, take responsibility and hold yourself accountable for your actions. And then once you've taken yourself in order, then I guarantee you the way you look at other people will be a lot different. Yeah. You have a lot more grace, compassion, understanding, and will be more willing to help. But when you just view everybody else as the problem and want to point the finger and you don't take accountability for your own self, that's why we get into the finger pointing state of society that we're in today.
You said a critical word there, and something that I really want you to dive into deep and go explore with me. You said the word grace.
Yeah.
Describe for me what grace is and give me some examples.
Man, to me, grace is an unconditional act of forgiveness. So let me give you an example of grace. And this is an unpopular example of grace. There was a woman whose son was murdered by another man. My son was murdered by a man, and the woman had all the right to hate this man. The man deserved to be hated. The man deserved to be attacked. The man deserved to be demonized. But the woman said, instead of demonizing and hating you, I'm going to show you grace. So every month for the rest of this man's life while he was in prison, she visited him. She met with him. She worked through his problems. She talked to him. She gave him wisdom and gave him life, and she radically transformed his life. Grace is the most scariest thing. It is an unconditional gift of love and forgiveness and care that one human being can give to another. And the problem in today's world is that grace does not exist. The moment you mess up, the moment you do something wrong, and obviously I gave you an extreme scenario of grace, but even in the slightest scenario of grace, the moment people make us mad, we cut them off. The moment somebody says something we don't like, let's cancel culture. Let's cancel them. Let's remove their platforms, deplatform them. Like, there is no grace in society. There is no forgiveness. There is no mercy. We have nothing in our hearts where we're giving people second chances. And so to me, grace is such an unconditional act of love and forgiveness that it's so powerful and it's so transformational, and we all need it, but we are the last ones to give it, and society is the last one to provide it to its people.
Yeah, man, I just got to let that hang for a minute because it is something. And when you talk about that, and then I want to come right back with today, one of the headline stories was, I don't know if you know who James Charles is, but he's a YouTuber and he's got millions of followers, like tons and tons of, like among the most of anybody followers, right? And he's a makeup artist and he's got a contract with a major female magazine brand. And he betrayed like his mentor's trust by repping another brand. And then he said something about straight men. He's a 19-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And those seem like minor things. When I was 19, I mean, look, I don't want to tell you what I was doing when I was 19. How about there before the grace of God go out? Like, yeah, you put all that weight on a 19-year-old kid who's in this space and revolutionizing a dude who's a makeup model for a female magazine brand. You talk about someone who's on the forefront of social and cultural exploration. It's him, and to not afford him any kind of leeway to learn on the job is just, to me, it's just the height of folly to expect him to be perfect.
Yeah, so that's a huge problem in society. Like I said, it's an expectation of perfection, and then when you don't become perfect, they want to crucify you and demonize you, and you don't give kids room to grow. Yeah. And what happens is that people are afraid of making a mistake, that they also become afraid of trying. You know, the kid is afraid of missing a shot. The kid is not going to be in the gym shooting every single day. And so I think the best way of moving forward in society is to give people grace. Obviously, consequences are consequences, right? So somebody freaking, robs a bank and burns down a school full of children, we're not going to be like, hey, let him go scot-free. Like, there's consequences when you commit crimes. But I definitely do believe that in certain situations, obviously hatred there's no space for hatred no matter what someone has done to you, because hatred is just a perpetuation of evil. But there's definitely grace to be given to people who do make mistakes, especially young kids. But today's society, I don't think we give kids the space to grow and to make mistakes.
We also, I think, have an unfair expectation with this perfection and all this other stuff. Like with this toxic masculinity topic, I know that we appropriately allow for a lot of mistakes for people that are, say, addicts, right? There's a genetic wiring where it's like, man, I'm glad I don't have that affliction, and it doesn't absolve them of responsibility. But the way that disease manifests itself, it's really a problem socially, and especially for the kin around them. It's a problem. But you take a young 14-year-old boy who's jacked up on testosterone. If I was to put that much testosterone in my body right now, I would act completely differently. So we expect this certain behavior, but who's teaching, apart from you guys, who's teaching young men how to become actual young adult men. You know, it's this unknown path that most of us learn through mistakes. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm a Gen X guy, right? I'm almost 50 years old. And when I was growing up, one of the biggest albums when I was in my 20s was Jagged Little Pill from Alanis Morissette. And what I realized in that album was the kind of guy that I was the kind of the guy that she was pissed off at in this breakup album. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to be that guy. But only because the fog had started to clear from my brain and I started to really become an adult was I able to receive that message. And still, to this day, I still get things from that album that I'm only able to get now that I'm, a middle-aged man. How does that resonate with you?
No, I think that's true. I think a lot of messages has shaped me and has transformed my worldview throughout the years. So I definitely think there's those pivotal moments and those pivotal people who begin to teach us things that radically transform our life, and it sticks in our minds, and it sticks in our core for a long period of time. So I definitely understand that. I've been many people, many books, have impacted me and shaped my worldview. Many discussions and thought leaders. So I understand that all the way, and that's so important to have those type of individuals in your life.
When you look at, especially with the guests you have and the people that you want to get and the quality that your show has already achieved. But let's hold on. Let's press pause on that. We'll come back to that. You said something really cool in one of your episodes. You talked about how you guys are about a year in and you're looking at the dial and it says 78 people spinning your show. Yeah. And you're like, damn, Yeah. That is an ego crusher, and it proves how hard it is to build an audience, but it also proves that where you guys are now with a lot more than 78, man. You guys are killing it. At least on YouTube, hundreds of thousands of spins on your show, right? And that's just on YouTube. So whatever else you're getting in all the other platforms, you guys are killing it. I guess, is there one thing that tipped the scale where you were like, rocket ship, go now?
I would say the big thing that really tipped the scale was my guy, Gary Vaynerchuk. Like I said, one day I was upset and I was frustrated. And one of my friends, one of the co-hosts of the show, he went up to me and he was like, man, we suck. We need to just do this for fun and nobody cares. And I was like, yeah, I guess it's true. And I watched a Gary Vaynerchuk video, and that made me like, man, this dude Gary, man, it really encouraged me, and I wanted to learn more from him. So I'm a big reader. So I read his book, Crush It. And after I read his book, Crush It, a fire got lit in my soul. I just got reinvigorated to go and, just take it up another notch. And on that day, it was like everything began to change. And I think that moment, it was like probably like November-ish, 2017. That moment was the most pivotal shift in the podcast, and it just helped us to get to one of many new levels.
What are some of those other levels that came along with that shift?
The first thing was radical accountability.
Okay.
And the level, like going from like 78 listens to like 400 listens came in me being radically honest about, your show production wise sucks, and you could do so much better if you just fix the production of your show. And then going from 400 listeners to 1,000 came from, hey, why don't you be radically proactive in marketing your show? So I would spend hours upon hours on Twitter, reaching out to people who listen to podcasts and telling them to check out my show. And then, from 1,000 to, even to 10,000 was like, you have to get people on your show. You got to get people that resonate. You got to get people who are really going to give your audience life. And so, like, man, a lot of people that we got on our show, man, we spent, Ben Shapiro took me a year and a half, and so, Gary, I had to stalk him for like 6 months and pull up on him in person. So it was like, a lot of these things that we had to do, man, just took a lot of energy and a lot of hard work. And so yeah, those are things that we had to do to get to the next level.
Yeah, let me just say this, because one of the questions I get asked the most is people trying to figure out how to build a podcast. How do you get guests? You ask. And the second thing is you ask. And you're not a pest, but you're persistent, like maybe not today, maybe tomorrow. And there's people that I've chased for friends of mine, people that I grew up with that are like, maybe next month. And I ask them the next month. And I'm like, just a gentle nudge. Just want to let you know I'd love to have you on my show. But yeah, you're right. Like if you don't do that, and then I don't like to ambush people. So, but I do take opportunities. So like if I see Gary Vee out and about, I'm going to say, actually, I'll give you an example. I saw James Altucher. I was out with my girl. We were going to go do a couple things, and he was doing a comedy set. So she's a big fan of his. And I appreciate his work too. So we go to the club where he was going to be at, and we just missed him. And I saw him, and I'm like, I'm at least going to pay him a compliment because Jordan Harbinger was on the show, and I said, who interviews great? And he's like, James Altucher is fantastic. He's thought out and everything. So I wanted to let James know, because he's not going to hear that on my show. I wanted to say, hey, man, he could have picked anybody in the world, and he said your name, and I wanted to let you know that. And then I thought, while I'm here standing there and I paid you a compliment, I'd love to have you on my show. And he said yes, because I asked him in a way that wasn't like, oh, my God, be on my show. And with so many podcasts out there, and people crushing everybody out of the way, trying to get everybody on everybody else's show, you really have to find your way to stand out. But you do that by asking, by working, by cranking. When I hear you talking about this, being on Twitter, I mean, I've got a big following on Twitter. At least I think I do, because my people talk to me and they're my friends, and I built them as friends by having a great content, having a great personality, and being real with them. And I know you can feel that, because that's just how you do it. And then these things come along, and you go from 78 to 400, then you go to 1,000, and I'm compressing time, but that is exactly how you build an audience.
No, I couldn't have said that better myself.
So back into your show and where you guys are going. You have all these people coming on, and you're trying to get to somewhere, and from what you said on the show, like, you want to keep moving. You have this fire and this passion. So being where you're at's not good enough. Is the show, let me ask you the hard question. Is the show going to be in your future in 5 years? Or are you looking for something that's different? And I don't want to say bigger, because that's not fair. But are you looking in a different spot that's maybe more complex, more challenging than, say, having a podcast?
No, I think for me, it will always be my future. I just love sharing the ideas. I love the platform. I'm obsessed with sharing ideas. So no, it definitely is in my future. 5-10 years. Like I said, I do it. I do it naturally. Like this is what I naturally do. I naturally talk. I naturally have long form conversations multiple times a day. So to me, it's no issue whatsoever.
What's out in front of you that's interesting? I mean, obviously, you always can bring Jordan in and have Jordan Harbinger or Jordan Peterson on the show, but who's out there that you're like, man, what this guy's saying or what this lady's saying, I got to have more of that?
Man, there's a lot of people out there. The first person that comes to my mind is J. Cole. Mm-hmm. He comes to my mind. I really want him. There's this lady named Esther Perel. She's amazing, and I've been working on her for the longest time. Obviously, you pointed out Jordan Peterson. I wanted Jordan Peterson as well. I think Will Smith has a really fascinating story. I would love to talk to Will as well. Those probably the 4 people: Esther Perel, Jordan Peterson, J. Cole, and Will Smith. Those are the 4 people that come to my mind that I'm like, yo, those 4 people, I definitely want to share some more ideas with them. But I think I'm also excited about the everyday people, I think I do with my show. I don't want my show to be about celebrity, because I feel like celebrity culture is toxic, and it's going to be the death of us all. So I just think that I want to be able to create more environments where I can meet more people on a micro level who are doing dope work and that are really impacting society, and bring them on the show. So it's not just Johnny B. Success was on the show, but so then it's also like Johnny B. No Name. Yeah, and the world's view, so to speak. So yeah, that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, and celebrities, God bless, they all have to do the thing that they do well, but they there are people that specialize in topics that we have never heard of, whether they're PhDs or they're just the thought leader on on their topic, whether it's love or something like that. Like someone like we had Ramal Toon on the show, and he focuses on love and just gets deeper into love than you know anybody else has. And you don't got to hang with him at his pace because he's an expert, an out-and-out expert at love. But if you can just run a little faster with him for a while, you just became better at love. And everybody needs to be better at love, joy, wonder, awe. Those are things, and we've got a bunch of people. And by the way, if you ever want any of the guests that I've had, let me know. I'm glad to do an introduction. But we had like Matt Mosteler. He's a professional ski bum. And he's like, get outside and let nature give you awe, give you wonder. Just go out, and even if it's a short amount of time, just put those moments into your life because it'll change you for the better.
That's awesome. I like that a lot.
Yeah, man. It's one of the things that I've been collecting a lot of and giving it to my peers because we all got to find this stuff together, you know. The other thing I figured out, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this, is someone like Jordan Harbinger, who's had a decade of doing podcasts and talking to incredible people, you can't capture that guy in an hour. You need to have him on 10 times, like once a year, just to check in and see where he's at because the lessons that he has, he doesn't even know him. Like you got to put him in a headspace where he's exploring something he hadn't really put together and let him kind of teach us because he's had that great fortune of having thousands of conversations.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I think some people you always got to go back to because they're like a wealth of knowledge, you know?
Yeah.
And obviously due to schedule constraints, you know, you got to be respectful of people's times,
Sure.
But you definitely want to continue to bring these people back and to get as much wisdom as you can and like squeeze that lemon, you know, get every last drop of juice out their mind. So I definitely agree.
Yeah, for sure. You got to be respectful of their time, and you don't want to check in too often. You know, the audience wants to hear from them, but there is a lot of gems there. What are you doing to weave these stories together? You guys must have, what do you have, like 128 episodes, something like that? So you've got nearly 128 hours of conversation. That's, you know, you're approaching a 4-year college degree at some point, right?
Yeah.
So
I never thought about that, huh?
Yeah, what are you going to do with this stuff? You owe it to yourself and to your audience, to your people, to do something with it. What are your thoughts?
No, definitely. We definitely working on a book. The book is less about ideas and more about the story with the ideas, you know, woven in between. But to me, I've always been collecting my ideas. I've been collecting them for quite a few times, and I'm actually going to work on a project in the near future. So yeah, to me, it's always collecting those ideas, always putting them together, always trying to find more tangible ways to give it back to the people. So no, I agree with you wholeheartedly. We definitely got to create more tools and resources to be able to consolidate the information and give it to the people.
And then when you look at areas where you feel like you need to brush up, where you want to get people in certain areas, whether, I don't know, whatever it is, you tell me, what are areas where you're like, I really need to strengthen this part of myself?
Consistency and character. I think that's the biggest thing that we're on in this current season of life. I feel like the world has consumed everybody's mind, or has, I guess better, has corroded everybody's mind or corrupted everybody's mind to be consumed with attaining materialistic goods. And so many people's identity is based upon, I have a car, I have a house, I have a degree, I have a job, I have this amount of dollars, but the problem is no one's identity is based upon what kind of good person they are. Like, yeah, I don't care how many cars you have in your driveway. You are a trash individual. So to me, I'm obsessed with character development, you know, being a better person, being kinder, being warmer, being more open, being more understanding, being more forgiving. And that's where I'm at in this current season of my life. I'm just trying to really get better in that area because we just chase all this vanity. And at the end of the day, like, what does that mean, you know?
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by The Guide for Every Screenwriter. From synopsis to subplots, the secrets of screenwriting revealed. It's a book by Jeffrey D. Calhoun, who's known for his fast-paced thrillers, but he's won awards for his comedies and dramas alike. He's an in-demand script consultant and the founder of WeFixYourScript.com. He's also the director of the Script Summit Screenplay Contest, which is listed as one of the biggest screenplay competitions by the Script Lab, and he's been a guest of the Break It Down show several times, including co-hosting our 200th episode with Jay Moore. In his new book, he takes the complexities of writing a script and lays them out in a simple and manageable way, tailor-made for today's attention span. I have a copy. Pete has a copy. We both bought ours as soon as the book came out, and it's terrific. It's the guide for every screenwriter, from synopsis to subplots, the secrets of screenwriting revealed, and you can order it on Amazon right now and get it in 2 days if you're a Prime subscriber, and you should. Make sense of the craft of screenwriting with the Guide for Every Screenwriter by our friend Jeffrey D. Calhoun. Get it today.
We just chase all this vanity, and then at the end of the day, like, what does that mean, you know?
Yeah, so you said a key word. I want to go back and talk about that. You talked about building character. It's easy to say you have good character, but what are the things that you think enable you to build character? Because building character, that's a motherfucker, and it's easy. It's like laying off donuts when you love donuts. It's easy to eat donuts, but that shit ain't gonna get you healthy. So how does one build a strong character, and what does it look like when you see it?
I think you build a strong character by doing good when doing good doesn't feel like the right thing to do. I think in the Christian worldview, there's something called fruits of the spirits, and they're just different virtuous things that, you know, that Paul talked to the people of Galatia about, and those were, you know, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. So those are things that you have to constantly improve, and you have to constantly being faithful. Like when somebody says, "I'm gonna be here at 8:00," like your word, you know what I mean? Like, most people's word means nothing, and it bothers me how at times my word means nothing. If I say I'm gonna be here at 8:00, I want everybody to know at 8:00 he will be there, not 8:05, not 8:01, not 8:15, 8:00. Being faithful. Like I said, gentleness. Like, as a man, God has given us testosterone. God has given us strength. God has given us power. But don't use that power to oppress. Don't use that power to abuse. Don't use that power to, you know, to take advantage of people. So to be able to use your strength, you know, I think they said the signs of a gifted samurai is one who rarely removes his sword from his sheath. You know, so I think the idea of being able to control yourself and control your strength and to not use your power to abuse and take advantage of people. And also to be patient. I think a lot of times you deal with a lot of crap in life. And a lot of times we're short. We cut people out. We cut people off. You know, so learning those patience. So, yes, I think challenging yourself, pushing yourself, making yourself uncomfortable is ways you grow and build your character. And it's evident by the way people want to be around you. So many people, no one wants to be around them. You know how it is. Like, children can sense it. Like, you remind them from the Grinch from before he stole Christmas. Like, your heart is 3 sizes too small. And so I think it's apparent that when you have beautiful character and you are growing as a person, you have an aroma of warmth and of kindness that people just want to flock to. And so that's where I'm trying to get to in my life.
Okay, so we know that character comes through trial. You just said the same kind of thing, where you have to put yourself in a position to do something good when it's easier to not do that good thing. Mm-hmm. What are some of those things in day-to-day life that allow you to do that? Like, I had the good misfortune of being a combatant, you know, in a zone where my job was to go out every day outside the wire, right? So I'm out there every day encountering people, and I had to do things because of the job that I have. But I don't want anybody else to have to go to Afghanistan or Iraq and get shot at and blown up like I did. How does someone who's home, who lives in Atlanta, who lives in Dallas, who lives in Seattle, how do they go out and build character? What do they do that's going to push them out of their comfort zone and force them to develop? Because you don't just start at grace. You start at G, you know, and then you gur, and then gray, and then, you know, at the end. Yeah. Like, it takes time to build these things, and there's subsets, and there's skills and tolerances you have to build up. So how does someone do that here in the States where we have it so good, and it's, you know, doing something challenging can be hard?
Yeah, I think the first thing is, how do you treat the people who love you the most. That's step number one.
Okay.
Jordan Peterson says, get your bed in order, then get your room in order, then get your house in order, then get your food in order. So my thing is charity starts at home. How do you treat your family and friends? I know your mom makes you mad. I know your dad is X, Y, and Z. I know your brother and sister are all crazy. But how in the world are you treating them in spite of their behavior? Because the family is the one people, and I'm guilty of this, but it's one group of people where we actually treat the worst because we feel like, man, I know you. You're not going anywhere. I don't have to impress you. I'm not going to do anything. So we treat these people the worst. So to me, charity starts at home. Are you calling your mom if your mom is still alive? Are you calling your father? Are you calling your people? Are you asking how they're doing? Are you considerate of them? Are you caring about them? Are you hoping for the best? Are you praying for these people? Like, that's where it starts, and me, I'm being honest. I'm not the best at this area, and I want to grow in this area, So I think the number one way you can improve on building your character is start at home. Whether that's with your wife, whether that's with your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your son, whatever it may be, start at home and start loving and caring for them, and then move forward through other areas of your life after that.
Yeah, there's a couple things coming down the road for you as you mature towards middle age, and I'm not trying to rush you or nothing, but you're right. These are things that you have to learn, and also the dominance of your ego. Right. And this is hard for everybody, but by the time you get to your 40s, you've had enough things beaten into you. Maybe you've been through a divorce and some trials and tribulations. Your ego and your id, especially for us dudes, because we're all id growing up, those things finally get checked up through our own mistakes. And, so I've gotten mostly past that point. I certainly have my slip ups, but now as you get older and the people in front of me in age are starting to be less healthy and also die, I start to look at my interactions and say, well, I want this to be the last way I interact with this person. Whether we're in a conflict or we're just having a regular conversation, could I slow down a little bit? Could I smile a little more? Like, if having good posture is important, so is having a good demeanor. I find that it's really challenging. It's easier to let your face kind of be a sourpuss face, and it's a totally different mindset when you do that. And then when you look at your interactions with people and you really value the quality that is that moment in time with that person, because you don't know what tomorrow has. Especially, again, all of my friends' parents are passing away. My dad has passed away. And so you get more of that, and you're like, this is the last time I talked to this person. Didn't I have a little more ability to be a little more graceful?
No, I agree with you. I think that's so true. It's like, man, it's sad because it takes us to lose people before we realize that.
Yeah.
It takes us to get to the point in our lives when, when we've done a lot of people wrong, and we're like, oh, now it's time to start doing people right. So I think that message is really powerful because, like you said, you never know. You also never know what you could do. You never know what you can say. The same words that can give life are also the same words that can tear down life. And so I think it's important to hold yourself accountable. And like I said, it's not easy. I have to do a better job of doing so. But yeah, you definitely got to love these people well, and you never know what each encounter can mean to that individual.
Yeah, and the opportunities I've had in life have largely come from, I've had the good fortune of having a fairly good demeanor and being honest with people. I kind of learned that early on. I've certainly made a lot of mistakes, but of to my advantage, when someone comes up to me and says, you said something to me once, I go, kind of get nervous, but I know really that I normally am pretty truthful and I'm trying to be kind most times. So when you hear that word reflected back and you find out that it changed someone's life, for those thousands of other times when nothing happened, you realize your impact actually is more significant than you realize, because it's not thousands of times when nothing happened. You approach life from a level, at least for me, of kindness, of truth, like you've talked about, and you will slowly start to gain a positive impact around you. And this stuff isn't built in a day. It's all hard work, and I appreciate your guys' outlook and the way you have these kinds of conversations where you make it possible. It's one thing to say, go be graceful. Like my dad would be mad at me. He would be mad as hell and say I was irresponsible, but he never taught me what it took to be responsible. He just yelled at me and told me I was a jerk. And I'm like, you don't even know half the crap I'm doing. So if you think I'm irresponsible, you want to actually just come hang out with me, and then you really would believe it. But he never taught me how to be responsible, how to be trustworthy. He just didn't offer it ever. And that's, that's like the fight of my life was how I dealt with my dad, because we just never figured out how to get along. I want to give you the opportunity to ask me some questions too. We got about 500 shows recorded now.
I guess my only question is, what's the biggest lesson you learned in your life?
Well, I would say that the biggest lesson is my active verb, especially for anybody younger than me. And I'll next week I'll be at my high school talking to seniors right before they graduate, a whole day's worth of students. And the action verb is do. You can make a lot of mistakes. And if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning at a fast enough rate. You have to make mistakes and you learn from them. And sometimes you have to make that same mistake. Life will give you the same lesson in shittier forms, until you learn that lesson. And so if you keep doing, you keep engaging, you're going to figure it out. It will be hard. And no one looks back at the path and goes, yep, that's exactly what I expected. But the only way to get up the mountain is by stepping up the mountain every day.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's what we do. All right, well, listen, he's Hafeez. His show is called The Roommates Podcast. And you guys got to support these guys. What they're doing is really cool. If you've got $5-10 a month for them over at Patreon, do it, because these guys are helping change how we see things, and they're getting great guests. And I'm a total supporter. I've already subscribed on YouTube and on Apple. Give these guys ratings and stars and all that stuff, because you'll really appreciate what they're doing, and share it with people. As always, sharing is a big way to help us all get our messages out there. And what these guys are doing, it truly is valuable. As soon as I heard, and I'm telling you right now, man, I was 5 minutes in and I'm like, done. Got to have these guys on the show, because you're approaching complicated stuff in a way that's healthy. And we need a whole lot more of that, man. A whole lot more.
Man, I appreciate that a ton, brother. That means a lot.
Yeah, well, you're taking on big problems and approaching it from a healthy way. It's how we all get there, and we all get together. Because it turns out we all hate cancer. We all love our kids. And we'd all like to do something positive, for our life and leave a good mark. And if we all just help each other do that, and like Jordan Peterson says, just handle your own stuff. You know, when you have extra bandwidth after handling your own stuff, you help someone who's desperate for help and get them up off their feet. So, all right, man. Well, thank you so much. Come back again.
Most definitely. Of course.
Yes. All right, cool.